Hey everybody, what's going on?
Boy, that is too dark.
Well, yeah, see, I told you that it looked okay, but you didn't believe me.
Oh.
That's what happens when you don't listen to Jenny.
Yeah, right.
See?
That's probably better.
Yeah, I know. What's going on? It's Monday, and we're doing a movie review. I'm having a drink because it's been a day. Just gonna tell you that right now.
I picked this one out. Jenny never saw this one.
I had heard of it, but I never got around to seeing it, and it's like, this one's really fun, and I thought it was like, it's kind of underrated. You don't really hear a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah, this is like the American version of Zatoichi. It's almost a retelling of a Japanese.
Well, it is actually a loose remake of one particular Zatoichi movie, which is Zatoichi Challenged, which I think came out in the late 60s.
I haven't seen that.
That was the 17th movie. Because they made a lot of
There's a shit ton of Zatoichi movies, yeah.
There are, yeah.
They were starring Shintaro Katsu, also known as Katsushin. Great singer, interesting character, and a good actor. And he basically invented Zatoichi. He made that character by himself as he just went along, and a bunch of fucking cool shit happened. Started off in the black and white era, and then it went into the color era.
I think the last Zatoichi movie came out in 1989, which was the same year that this movie came out.
Yeah, I've actually seen that one. I think if it's the same one we're talking about. That was the one it was Shintaro Katsu, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because there was another one that came out after that. That played another guy. There was another guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't that good, though. What's funny is the last Zatoichi was Japanese guys with blonde hair and blue eyes. And I was like, wow, now they're ripping off Blind Fury.
Yeah, maybe. Well, like I said, I don't know about that because that came out. The last Zatoichi movie came out the same year as this came out. And what ended up happening was that Tim Matheson, who's actually better known as an actor, like he's been in a ton of shit, but I know him from Sometimes They Come Back, the Stephen King adaptation. Like he was in that. And he was the producer on this. And the reason why he wanted to be the producer on this was because he was a really big fan of the Zatoichi movies and wanted to do like an American version of it. Although I will say that this is more comedic, I think. Although the Zatoichi movies had humor in them too.
Yeah.
But this one is kind of more like, it's listed as an action comedy. But it still has, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it's like an out and out comedy because it has...
Just have a comedic relief in it.
It does, yeah. It does have like a lot of comedy in it, but I don't know if I would straight up call it a comedy.
Yeah, and Zatoichi had that too.
Yeah.
So it was similar, real similar. Good movie. Rutger Hauer. We're talking about Rutger Hauer. Rutger Hauer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I even say that?
You said Howard.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
I did. Okay.
Yeah. I know what you said.
Grammar Nazi. Rutger Hauer.
We'll you did it again.
No. See, she can't hear me.
You did it again. You're putting a D on that. It doesn't have a D on that.
There's no D on there.
There's no D on that.
I didn't say a D.
It's a Dutch name. It sounded like you did.
No.
Though. But yeah, so I love Rutger Hauer, and it's just that I think the thing about it is this came out in the theater. It got a theatrical release, although I think it only got a theatrical release like later. I think it only came out like in theaters in 1990.
Yeah. And
it got like pretty okay reviews. Like Siskel and Ebert really liked it, and a lot of critics liked it and stuff like that. But I don't think it made a shit ton of money. But then it was on cable all the time, and it was like a pretty popular like VHS rental. So I'm guessing it did okay.
I saw it on VHS.
And it just got, you know what I saw? I was like looking at other reviews of it, and it just got I don't know if it's like fairly recently. It got a Blu-ray re-release, and they put it like in a VHS like slipcover thing that looks like a VHS. It's cool looking. I don't think there's like super special features on it or nothing like that, unfortunately, but it looks really nice though. Like the one version we saw was on Amazon Prime. And we just kind of like were scrolling through the movies, and Tom's like, "Oh, I kind of..." Now, had you seen it? Didn't you say you'd seen it? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it on VHS.
Yeah, because I thought
Several
it was
times.
like it was on cable all the time, like back in the early '90s. I feel like.
We rented it.
Yeah.
I think we saw it several times.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty popular rental. I don't think I would have ever rented it though because I was like too busy renting horror movies. Yeah. But yeah, so this was actually directed by kind of like a big name guy, Phillip Noyce. He also did Dead Calm, which is a great movie. He did Sliver. He did The Bone Collector. He did some of the Jack Ryan movies with Harrison Ford. Like he did Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger. So So this was kind of like right in his wheelhouse. And like I said, this was very specifically based on Zatoichi Challenged.
Yeah.
Although it's kind of, obviously it's like a modernization because it's set in the modern day, or it's set in 1989. Whereas the Zatoichi movies are set in
Tokugawa period.
Yeah.
I guess 1700s, I think. 1600s, maybe. For those of you who don't know who Zatoichi is, it's just a large, like you said, 17 movies, right?
No, there's more than that.
More than that, 20-something movies?
There's 20-something movies.
Yeah, and they're Japanese sword movies about a Yakuza swordsman who's blind.
Yeah.
And he's a masseur and a beggar. He just walks from one place to the next, kind of like Kane out of Kung Fu. And when he gets there, he gets involved with, like, girls that got sold into prostitution. He's got to figure out how to get them out, because their loser husband fucking sold them into prostitution to pay the farm debt type of deal. So he's got to deal with the damn brothel owners and gangsters and crooked samurai, just whatever. And he's kind of he's a Yakuza, which means gambler, really. Kind of like a wandering gambler. Goes into gambling houses, kind of cheats in a certain way, but they try to cheat him. Bunch of cool scenes with that. He knows that because he's blind, people are going to try to take advantage of him, so he has all these scams to flip that back around on them so he can scam them. But it's a good, very unique series. A series of movies. I recommend any of them. You don't have to see them in any kind of order.
They're all standalone.
They could all be standalones, and a lot of them are kind of like, after you've seen a few of them, they're all kind of samey. But they're very popular in Japan, 60s and 70s and 80s. Well, this is a reboot of that.
Yeah, it's a very similar story to what you would have seen in a Zatoichi movie, except set in the present day.
Now, Shintaro Katsu, who played Zatoichi, he was quite a character. He was a partier. But he also he had sword fencing training, and he accidentally killed a guy on set with a sword, and that was a big scandal in Japan. It was a real sword. But the dude was his friend, and but they accused him of being drunk, and I don't think he was drunk, but he was a drinker. He also he liked cocaine, evidently, too. But he could sing, and he would release albums singing as Zatoichi. And like one of the best songs, you can go on YouTube and you can listen to it. It's called "Darkness Is My Ally." Zatoichi.
I think that was the name of the last Zatoichi movie that he was in.
That particular song is
in '89.
Is really good, and it's all in Japanese. And it's kind of like Western music, but with like a Western music, the instruments. Not really. You can see, because we had cowboy westerns and shit like that here. Over in Japan, it was samurai movies. You know what I mean?
It's the same. It's like the same genre pretty much.
Yeah,
it's just like slightly filtered through different cultural lens, but other than that, it's pretty much the same.
So, but he's a Yakuza and he's blind, and he's got a cane, and inside that blind man's cane is a blade, a sword. It's straight, and it's not curved like a samurai sword. And he's good, and real good. He doesn't need to see. Well, Rutger Hauer plays a character like that. He's a Vietnam veteran who becomes MIA in Vietnam. And they look like Montagnards, which is kind of like Vietnamese tribal people. Looks like it was them that took him in and rehabilitated him because he got blinded
by like a mortar explosion.
And they had a sword master in there that taught him how to use a sword, and he was over there for about 20 years, and he finally comes back to the United States, and his name was evidently on that Vietnam memorial wall. They thought he was dead, but he wasn't. I don't think he ever told him that he was alive.
Yeah, I guess he didn't.
No.
Well, it seemed like he didn't seem to have like a family or anything.
Mm-mm. So he went back looking for his best friend in the army, and it turned out that guy got involved with a bunch of gangsters out of Reno. They were like they were involved in a casino stuff, and they were making designer drugs. And he had become a chemist, his buddy, and in the ensuing years. And then, so he tries to find him, ends up at his house, and while he's there, some gangsters come. He finds out that that guy had left his wife and kid, that they broke up. And some gangsters came up looking for him, and they kill the wife. And he ends up kind of inheriting custody of the kid. He's trying to bring the kid back to his father, and the gangsters are all involved. And there's all these showdowns and shit towards the end. It's pretty good. It's like a Zatoichi movie.
I mean, it's a star-studded cast too, because not only is Rutger Hauer in this, he's like the main character, but also you have the guy who plays his army buddy, like the guy that's the chemist that gets roped into like making these designer drugs for these gangsters, is Terry O'Quinn, who probably best known from Lost, but I recognized him from The Stepfather, which came out a couple years before this, which is a great movie, by the way. I reviewed that like a little while back. It's like a horror thriller. Weirdly enough, he's credited as Terrence O'Quinn in this, even though I'm pretty sure he's credited as Terry O'Quinn in everything else that I've seen him in, but I think that was weird. Also, one of the gangsters, like the main gangster, is played by Randall Tex Cobb, who also played the scary motorcycle guy in Raising Arizona. So there's that. Also, the wife of Terry O'Quinn's character is played by Meg Foster. Yeah. We were very excited when we saw her name in the credits. Tom met her when we were at the horror convention.
Yeah, she's a little bitty thing. I fucking was pulling her into me fucking like that, and like Jenny took a picture of us.
Yeah, we still have that somewhere.
She's still recognizable. She still looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "You want to have a drink? You want to go get a drink?" She's like, "Yeah." No, I can't. I gotta work. Yeah.
She did though for a second.
Yeah. No, I gotta work. Because she had to go down there and do autographs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so we just saw her walking by, like, because we were there like signing books and stuff, and we just saw her walking by, and I was like, "Hey, that's Meg Foster." Yeah. So we were excited because I love her, but it's like we were excited when we saw her name in the credits. Spoiler alert: she is in literally one fucking scene.
Yeah.
One scene.
They kill her off like in 5 minutes.
I know. It's like Rutger Hauer goes to the house like thinking his army buddy still lives there. Like, where was that at? That was it was in Florida. That was in Miami.
Yeah, they're in the South a lot of times.
Yeah, and then it's like a road trip kind of thing.
Yeah, they're on a fucking Greyhound going through fucking Alabama.
He goes
I've done that. Jenny's done that.
I've done that too. Yeah. That was an experience I'd rather not repeat.
That was back when airplane trips were a lot more expensive than they are now. If you didn't have $400, you couldn't ride on a damn airplane. You had to go on a bus.
But sometimes it's like worth it because, well, I don't know. I hate to fly, but now it's just kind of like I don't know which is worse because flying an airplane now is kind of sucky too. Because
it's not as fun as it was.
No. Well, I mean,
all that damn security.
That, and then it's just like there's always like crabby ass people, and they try to cram as many people on the plane as possible, and they're screaming babies and shit like that. Which is, I guess, that's the same true of like a bus, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get less crazy people on a plane, but I don't know if that's true anymore though. Yeah. Zach says, "Man, that pisses me off. They advertise a big and super toasted actor like they're starring in a movie, then they're only in it for 5 minutes."
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's like, now in their defense,
there's other ones.
Her name was like toward the end of the credits, and I just like noticed. I was like, "Oh, Meg Foster's in this," and then it's like, so when she turned up, I'm like, "Hey, there she is. Hey, Meg." Yeah. And then then she's in one scene, and then she gets fucking blown away, and I was like, "Well, bye, Meg."
She was gorgeous in Masters of the Universe and He-Man.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. Maybe we should review that one.
She plays like the evil queen in that, man. She looks fucking great. Her
eyes.
Now, here's the thing about her eyes. I've always wondered what they do to her eyes to get them that blue.
Yeah, because she's got freaky looking eyes.
When I met her, she did have blue eyes. They didn't look that intense. I think they did something to them.
Well, I don't know if it's that or if it's just like the lighting that they use or something like that.
Or she put some kind of crazy blue contacts over her blue eyes.
Maybe.
It's hard to say. But
because they are
in person they looked blue, but they didn't stand out that much.
Right. Yeah, because like you see her in a movie, and in this one too, like her eyes are like.
Like headlights.
They don't look like human, really.
I think they were contacts.
But that's kind of her. That's her thing.
That was her trademark.
That was like her trademark, her calling card. So it's like, so don't get too excited about her being in it because she's great in it. I'm not saying that, but she's in it for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then she gets fucking shot. And also the kid that's in this, I knew I recognized him from something. The kid that was in this, the actor's name is Brandon Call. He was on one of those shitty. Do you remember on? I don't even remember what network this was, but back in the 80s and 90s, they had that string of sitcoms that was called TGIF. Do you remember that?
Not really.
And they had a show on there called Step by Step, and this kid was on it. Because the whole time I'm like, it's not. I know that's not Jonathan Taylor Thomas, but it's like one of those Jonathan Taylor Thomas clones that came out around that time, because all those child actors that kind of looked like that, like those sassy blonde boys with the fucking, you know what I mean? So he looks kind of like that, and I have to
much attention to sassy blonde boys.
Well, I didn't either, but it's just like they were just in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And my sister was a little bit younger. She didn't really watch that shit either, but it was just always kind of on.
Zach, did you pay attention to them sassy blonde boys back in the day?
Sassy blonde boy. And not even, no, I shouldn't use the word sassy because that actually implies a good thing. I'm talking about like those era, because you know how the 90s, everything was like extreme and everybody was just like smart asses?
Yeah.
Like that. And it's just like
the
I
kid
hate.
from Terminator 2?
Right. Like, Edward Furlong. Mm-hmm. Like that. Like everybody had to be like extreme and like badass. And I was just like, you know what I mean? So like I hate the 90s, like I said. So, not all of the 90s, but I hated that about the 90s. And it seemed like a lot of the child actors were like that. And to an extent, the kid in this is kind of along those same lines. So honestly, the kid in this, I really wanted to like punt him across the fucking room. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He's supposed to be like that though. Like he's supposed to be shitty. You know, and he starts out. But the great thing about it is that it's like after his mom gets shot, and Nick, which is Rutger Hauer's character's name, the blind guy.
Yeah, and I was going like, this must be Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Like a blind
I
Fury.
got Nick Parker is his name, but yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so he takes the kid, because he promised the mom, like, before she died, she's like, take care of my kid, even though I just met you. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing. So he's going to take the kid cross-country, at first not telling him that his mom is dead. So I was like, well, that's a little shitty, because he wasn't like a little kid. He was like 12. Right? About that.
Yeah, about that. 11, 12.
11 or 12. So he's like a tween. So the kid is like shitty at first. Like he's always like trying to make fun of the blind guy. And it's like, you know, the blind guy slips and falls and he just thinks it's hilarious. And it's like that kind of stuff. So he's a real shit. But I do like that Nick's character like doesn't really play. Like doesn't really fuck with. Like he doesn't get mad at him. But he basically.
He fights back.
He basically just doesn't let him get away with shit. Like, to be honest, so I thought that was kind of good. But it's like, you know, and the kid is just kind of like, oh, it's like, why are we going to see my dad? My dad doesn't want me. And I'm like, well, I don't blame him. I wouldn't want you either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you kind of suck. So I kept, like, hoping, like, through the whole movie, I was like, maybe he'll get hit by a bus. But, like, he does get better, like, as it goes on. Like, he actually does chill out. But it does have that late 80s, early 90s smart-ass kid kind of Bart Simpson kind of thing going on. I blame Bart Simpson for that. I think that was the first one that did that kind of shit. But he does have that. But it works out okay.
I think Married with Children started all that shit.
Oh, maybe it did. Well, you know, not really, because those kids...
From that, it all...
Well, those kids were older, though.
Yeah, but I'm just saying from that series, which is about... They were trying to say, instead of all this Ozzy and Harry and shit, because this is... They wanted to go the other direction. Like, this is the way families really are.
Which was closer to the truth. Got it.
Kinda.
I mean, it's exaggerated for sure.
Yeah.
But...
And it was funny.
Not that much.
It was funny. But from there, I noticed a bunch of characters came off of that concept.
Yeah.
Like I said, late 80s.
Yeah. Like I said, I think Bart Simpson was a big touchstone for that, too. Because he was, like, right around that age. And he was just, like, a smart-ass kid.
Well, the Simpsons were kind of like a rip-off of fucking Married with Children. That series.
Well, see, I thought The Simpsons started, but, well, no, I guess it did.
No, I think it was
Where
after
did they start, like, around the same time? Now I can't even remember.
I think Simpsons was
I was around when all of that started, but...
Yeah.
Well, The Simpsons started on the Tracy Ullman show, I thought, like, as shorts.
I don't know. They were all knockoffs of each other.
Yeah.
You know, everything was just kind of interrelated.
Yeah. But it does have that kind of veneer to it, like that kid does. So it turns out, so basically most of the movie is like a road trip movie, because like after the mom gets shot, and then because Nick promised he would take the kid out to see his dad, so now they have to do this road trip, like I said, on a Greyhound bus from Florida to Reno, Nevada, and the whole way, because the gangsters I guess because the Terry O'Quinn character, his name is Frank in the movie, but he doesn't want to make the designer drugs. So basically, the goons are like, "Oh, we're gonna kill your family then." So they kind of knew where his ex-family lived, like his wife and kid, and so they go and kill the wife, and now they're following, Nick and the kid cross country, like while they're trying to get to Reno. And the thing about it, they have a lot of the gangsters are just like these fucking rednecks. That's where a lot of the the kind of comic relief bit comes from, I guess. Yeah. Because there's this one bit, I think they're in Kansas at one point, and there's this one bit like where the whole like
in the cornfield
truckload, this whole truckload of Jethros are like, with all their like woohoo, and they're just like coming after him like in this fucking cornfield, and there's a whole thing.
Yeah, which that's kind of true to the Zatoichi movies. The guys, the gangsters in the Zatoichi movies were losers basically, and clowns. Well, not all of them, but most of them. Most of them are kind of clowns, and they all get killed. Zatoichi usually kills them all. And there's always a few badasses in there, but they're mostly clowns.
And I think they did a good job. Rutger Hauer, he apparently like trained really hard for this movie, like because he had to do all the swordplay and he had to pretend like he was blind at the same time, and he does like a really passable job of it, I think. So
when this came out, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it got our attention, and it was in the action adventure genre in the VHS stores. It'd be alongside an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or a fucking Van Damme movie, something like that. It was like martial arts type shit. It was in that section, and we liked it. It's
a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with it, actually.
When I saw it, I didn't know who Zatoichi was. I didn't until later. I saw the Japanese versions, and I realized, oh, okay, that's where they got this. But it was a well-made movie for its budget. This wasn't a real high-budget movie.
No, definitely not.
It was just, but for action adventure or action movie, it was actually the quality was good. It was good, and it was kind of a little more cerebral / artistic compared to the average, say, like Van Damme movie, or I don't want to say Arnold's movies because some of Arnold's movies were fucking masterpieces. It's just compared to the average one, this one was.
It wasn't as dumb as what you're saying.
It had comedy in it, but it was homaging something Americans had never seen before, which is the Zatoichi movie. Yeah,
so it was a little bit. It had it was a couple rungs above average.
Right.
Plus, I'm always gonna say like Rutger Hauer, like he's passed away now, sadly, but I always kind of felt like he never got to be as big a star as he should have been, and I feel like this movie was maybe like his last attempt at being like a big like headlining action star, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And that sucks because he's awesome. I love Rutger Hauer.
Yeah. It didn't work out. I was there, of course, It didn't we liked this movie, and we associated Rutger with shit like fucking Blade Runner and
The Hitcher.
That kind of stuff.
God, I love The Hitcher.
He didn't really make it into the action scene because he couldn't compete against Arnold and Stallone and Van Damme. He just wasn't fucking big enough in terms of like he'd have to go in there and put on another 20-30 pounds of muscle to be taken seriously, or be some kind of a fucking serious martial artist. I mean, Van Damme wasn't that big, but he was in really good shape, and he did some goofy shit back in the day though. Fucking Van Damme. Goofy fucking photo shoots of him in his underwear with leopards and shit. Fucking it just, I guess that in the European mindset, that was some cool shit, but it just looked gay as shit to an American. But he just, Van Damme at least could do martial arts, or at least he can make you believe that he could. There was always, if you weren't there back in the day, you'd never understand it. It was pre-internet. It had Black Belt magazine and all this fucking stupid shit, fucking Kung Fu video games and Mortal Kombat. Actually, this is pre-Mortal Kombat. We weren't quite sure who could really fight and who couldn't fight. Fantasy would sometimes, fantasy and reality sometimes was hard to tell apart back in the late 80s, especially if you were young. Like we thought maybe a martial artist, maybe they could jump to the top of a fucking roof of a building. I mean, shit. Now we're talking about Ishida Kim style shit. You know, maybe one of them could make you go blind when he throws dirt in your face. But when you see Ishida Kim, who's a fucking the Ishida Kim video, when you see what that actually looks like, you saw how corny that is. You know, ninja skills didn't work.
He was just making that shit
He
in his
made that shit
backyard.
up. Yeah, ninja skills.
Climbing under a window. Look, I'm a ninja.
Yeah. And Van Damme eventually did evidently get his ass kicked in a bar fight, so nobody knew what was true.
What I'm going to argue, Rutger Hauer, he always had a lot more gravitas. I'm going to say, in my opinion, he was a better actor than any of the big action stars.
Yeah.
And he was more versatile in the sense that he was willing to play a villain, a.k.a. the Hitcher.
Yeah.
Whereas I kind of feel like the action stars, they kind of were very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
In the sense that they always want to be like this heroic, larger-than-life. Whereas Rutger Hauer seemed like he was more willing to be like a real person.
He was more,
or a bad guy.
He was more artistic.
Yeah.
The closest thing,
Thank you, Jeffy Art.
The closest thing to him that America had would have been, and in the action segment would have been Stallone. Stallone was real.
Because Rutger Hauer was Dutch, was he not?
I think so.
I thought he was Dutch.
Because Stallone was also real talented. He could write. He could act. He could do a bunch of
Oh
stuff.
yeah, out of all the big
names,
Stallone I think was the best.
Yeah.
He's obviously like the most talented in that because like he wrote Rocky for fuck's sake.
Yeah, he invented a lot of the characters that he invented John Rambo. And those movies were good. Well, he based it on other shit that
it was based on a book because I read the book actually.
Right.
The book is actually good. It's a lot different, but
it was like Spock. Okay, fucking Leonard Nimoy didn't invent Spock, but once he got the role of Spock, he expanded on it. He made Spock. Spock was a creation of fucking Leonard Nimoy. I mean, the writers were writing episodes around something Nimoy would say had to happen in the character. Oh, we got to go to Vulcan, that kind of shit. We got to tell people how Vulcans are different. Because he was just Spock, when they first came up with the idea of Spock, he was just a generic alien. They didn't know what Spock's rules were.
Yeah, they didn't really think about it all that much.
No, they were just going to kind of...
He's like the token alien.
Yeah, token alien.
And that was about the only...
Right.
That was about as far as they went with it.
Yeah, but Leonard was like, no, this is my role. We're going to fucking do something with this. Well, he needs to do this.
I still love Leonard Nimoy. He was a cool dude.
We need to know more of this. And shit, he ended up becoming like the fucking love interest in the fucking whole series. Man, the women were looking at fucking Spock. They weren't looking at Kirk.
See, I'm not so weird.
Nah.
Thank you.
Well, even our friend fucking Laura Ross said that. Just
yeah, she's a lot younger than us, and she recently got into the original Star Trek series, and she's like, "Holy shit, Jenny!"
Yeah.
She's like, "Spock is like the hottest," and I was like, "See, I told you."
Yeah. Guys like Kirk. Guys liked Kirk. They liked Spock too. I like Spock. It's just that the women were attracted to Spock because he was the other. He was the guy you couldn't have.
Well, see, it just goes to show they never really know what's going to appeal to ladies. We're complicated.
Yeah, Spock was hard to get.
I thought Spock was like one of the hottest characters they ever put on TV. Yeah. And I thought I was the weirdo because, yes, I also had a crush on Lurch from the Addams Family. So, everybody thinks suddenly I'm the weirdo. Okay, but it's just like, other people are into Spock too. It's not just me.
Yeah.
It's not just me being the weirdo. Even though I'm used to being the weirdo, it's fine. It's fine. I've made my peace with it. Next Dimension Media said Rutger was a great villain in Nighthawks with Sylvester Stallone. I haven't seen that in a long time either. We should rewatch that.
I remember that one. Yeah.
We should do a Rutger Hauer movie.
I saw that, but
thing.
I forgot that one. I have to see that one again. I think that was a sword and sorcery movie, wasn't it?
Ooh.
Nighthawks, wasn't that something kind of like Beastmaster?
I didn't think it was, but it's like I could be remembering it wrong.
Yeah, I have to go back.
Or confusing it with something else. I've seen so many movies in my fucking life, I just can't even remember them all anymore. But the thing about it, what I was gonna say is that in this movie, I think Rutger Hauer does a really good job balancing, because what he does, which Zatoichi kind of does this too, but he sort of pretends like he's I'm this helpless, bumbling, blind man. Yeah. But then he's kind of funny, he's got all these funny one-liners and shit like that. But then if people try to step up on his shit and everything like that, he will absolutely fucking waste you and then just be like, oh, whoops. Don't even know where I'm going with that. I can't see anything. Sorry. You know what I mean? And he just, like, kills everybody.
I think Howard did a good job of it, but Shintaro Katsu, man, fucking was better at it. I mean, Katsu Shin actually would get pretty fucking dark in those movies.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd be a clown, and then the next thing you know, he'd be like, "It's everything I can do to keep from killing you," that kind of shit. He would, and it would sound real fucking ominous, And he'd like mean it, and then he'd get all introspective and fucking cry about what a loser he was. That was another thing. But that was like only in some of the movies.
It's a ride. Some of those movies. It's a
like,
ride.
What a loser. And at the end of the Zatoichi movies, like when there's like some of the last ones, he was go on about how he wasn't a man anymore. That he was a loser, didn't have any money. Women would have nothing to do with him. That he couldn't have sex anymore because he had so much VD. Just all kinds of weird shit. He was like spilling his
all
guts.
the VD.
He had all the VD from all those hookers. Yeah,
well, now whose fault is that?
Yeah. And then he'd go on a damn suicidal fucking attack spree and kill like 30 or 40 dudes for a good cause type of deal.
Yeah, it's okay if it's for
it was like for a good cause, yeah.
Because, I mean, Rutger Hauer kills a lot of people in this one, too. But they're assholes, so it's like, who cares? Well, and the funny thing about it, this is like every 80s action movie has this trope where, he's a blind guy. He wanders into, like, a fucking diner or something like that to get a sandwich or whatever the fuck. And then as soon as he walks in, there's, like, a table of, like, miscreants, little bullies. And they're just like, we're just going to go fuck with a blind dude just for no reason. Yeah. Like, you could just sit there and drink your beer and shut the fuck up. But no.
They did that in the movie because that's what happened in the Zatoichi movie.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. But it's like in real life.
It wouldn't happen in real life.
No, it wouldn't happen in real life. But it happens in like pretty much every 80s action movie ever. And then they'll all like surround you.
Yeah.
And then like they'll only come at you one at a time conveniently so you can like kick each one of their asses.
Yeah. It was more believable in a Zatoichi movie because we were talking about like the 1500s and maybe like some rotten samurai in the 1500s would make fun of a fucking blind beggar. Hey, look at this guy. Wow.
Let's go fuck with him. Hey,
put a mouse in his tea. That kind of shit. That kind of stuff.
People are the worst.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. What they did in this one was he goes in the thing and the guy says, because he gets a burrito, right? Yeah, he gets a burrito, and the guy's like, "Oh, you need some salsa on your burrito," and then he gives him like super like atomic hot sauce. And then he like eats it and he pretends it's super hot, and then he's just like, it's not hot enough. And the guy's like, what? But then he starts being like a fucking douche about it. And then like, of course, a woman comes in and he has to like sexually assault her and try to steal her purse. And then, Rutger Hauer has to like fucking kill everybody. But yeah, but I think he did a good job like balancing like the kind of goofy. It's not goofy necessarily, but it is funny. Like, it does have a lot of comedic. One of the best sequences in this, actually one of my favorite sequences in this, was after they stole that van from the two thugs. The two thugs, like, kidnapped them and was, like, driving them. But they got out, and then they took the van. And obviously he can't drive because he's blind. And then the kid is only, like, fucking 12, so he can't drive. And then the woman that was with them, who I think was Terry O'Quinn's girlfriend, right, or something, and she loses her glasses Velma style, so she can't see either. So they're just like, well, who the fuck's gonna drive? So the blind guy is driving. So there's this great fucking sequence like through the streets of Reno of just Rutger Hauer just happily driving the fucking van the wrong way down the street. Like he can't see, and it's just like, oh my god, it's so funny. But it's like they staged it really well. But yeah, but he does a good job like with the goofy stuff, but also he looks like he could probably like do, you know what I mean? He did like a lot of sword training and stuff like that, so he does look like, and he's got the same thing that Zatoichi has, the blade like inside his walking stick.
Yeah. So
he's got the same thing. And I have to say too, for fans of martial arts films, there's a very funny bit where this blind guy has pretty much like fucked up most of this big gangster's thugs, and he's just like, what the fuck? And so he says to his little henchman or whatever, he's like, bring me Bruce Lee, you know what I mean? Like, and he literally says that. Yeah. The dude's like, pretty sure Bruce Lee is dead. Well, get me his brother then. Yeah. So the guy that they get to fight him is actually Sho Kosugi, who was in a bunch of martial arts movies. I think Enter the Ninja is the one that most people know him for. But he's like the big bad, like at the end. So him and Rutger Hauer like fight at the end.
They bring in a Japanese sword master. And that's who he is. He's played by that guy. And so there's this big ass sword fight.
Yeah.
Because there's got to be a sword fight in a Zatoichi movie.
Yeah, that's just how it is.
That's what they did, yeah.
That's just how it is.
Lots of them.
We laughed our ass off like when before he fights the guy, and he touches, like, Rutger Hauer touches Sho Kosugi's face, because, you know, he's blind, and then he says, oh, Japanese, and it was like, so he just feels like a Japanese person? Like, you can just tell by his face. I guess.
He's reading his face like it's Braille.
I guess. I thought that was really funny. But it's like, you know what this is kind of like, too? It's a little bit like Daredevil.
Yeah.
Because Daredevil is also blind, but, like, his other heightened senses are heightened. Yeah. So he can, like, hear everything and smell everything, and he knows where everybody is and when people are fucking with him and shit like that. So it's almost like there was, like, the magical blind person kind of trope. But like I said, Zatoichi was like that, too. Gotta say, also, other than the car chase sequence, which I really liked, I think my favorite part of this was the thing where he was fighting the guy, the main, like, henchman, the Raising Arizona guy, what was that character's name? Slag? Yeah, I think his name was Slag.
Yeah.
So he was fighting that guy at the end, and I was like, you know, Rutger Hauer has this sword. I was like, somebody's got to get beheaded. Come on. Like, somebody got a hand cut off, like, with the gun still in it, and then the gun went off, and that was super funny. So this is, like, pretty gory, even though it's kind of like a family-friendly movie. Sort of. Is it?
Yeah.
It seems like family-friendly, but then, like I said, like, people's limbs get cut off and shit like that. So, you know
it was a PG action movie for its time.
Right.
So,
but so it's like, so I thought it's like, ooh, Slag better get his head cut off at the end. That would be awesome. But what happened is even better. Like, the final confrontation takes place up in this, like, ski resort thing. Like, so it's like up in a mountain or something, like in Reno. And he fucking swings the sword at him, and the dude goes flying off the cliff, and he's cut in half. So, like, his little legs go this way, and I was like, oh my god, that was so much better.
It's like a Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I was like, that was so much better than a beheading.
What happened to Darth Maul?
I was so excited. Yeah. I was like, he got, like, all cut off and, like, fucking went down the fucking hell. It's like, I was into it.
What's funny about, blind swordsman and Daredevil and all these heightened senses, there's actually a guy on YouTube who's blind and loves rifles, assault rifles and stuff. He owns them, and he'll do whole video reviews on. He'll tell you the whole history. He's blind, can't see, but he can shoot.
Yeah, that's what blind means.
Yeah, he can't see shit, but he can shoot. He's got videos of himself at the range hitting man targets at 150 meters, and he could just, the buddy's calling out what targets to hit, and he can hit them. But they're not moving, and he's got to know where they are.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough.
But he can shoot them and hit out to about 150 meters. That's pretty far, for not being able to see.
Did we ever talk about that guy? I feel like we brought up this guy before, but I saw a documentary about this one guy who, he's blind, but he can do, what do you call it? Echolocation.
Yeah.
Like, he taught himself to do echolocation. Yeah. So he clicks. And, like, from where the sound is bouncing off, like, he can tell where everything is. So he goes out and, like, I don't think they'll let him drive a car, but he goes out, rides a bike, and does all this other kind of stuff, and it's like, he's totally fine.
Well, that guy that I just told you about that hit, he says that he uses all that shit for home defense. He says, don't think because he's blind, he can't fight with a rifle.
They made a horror movie like that.
He can hear you coming down the hallways and lay down fire. He can hit you just on by like basically echolocation. You can hear your footsteps and hear when you're stirring. And he knows the layout of his house, so yeah, he's good with a gun in a controlled environment. I wouldn't fuck with him. The motherfucker turn all the lights off. You'd be in the dark, and he wouldn't know any difference.
Just like that movie with Audrey Hepburn, Wait Until Dark.
Yeah, well, that's what Zatoichi meant by fucking darkness is my ally.
Well, that's what she did at the end. If you've never seen, I reviewed it a while back. It's a classic thriller, by the way. Audrey Hepburn was in it from the 60s. And at the very end, like, the bad guy comes to get her, and she's blind, like I said. And she hasn't been blind her whole life. She's just recently blind. And she turns off she smashes all the lights in the apartment, so they'll be on even footing. Yeah. Problem is, she forgets one light, which is the light inside the refrigerator.
Okay.
which most people would probably forget too.
Yeah.
So it's, you can't blame her too much for that. But because I totally wouldn't have thought of that. But she did think so. That was where the final battle royale took place. And I think when they showed it in the theater, they turned all the lights off in the theater, so it would be immersive and stuff. But yeah, so we just, like I said, we just kind of came across this randomly. We were kind of in the mood.
It's not long.
It was between this movie and The Wraith.
Yeah.
Because Amazon Prime had both of those, and they were right. Because I said I'm kind of in the mood for an 80s kind of underrated situation. And I had seen The Wraith before, but not for a really long time. But this one I hadn't seen. I'd heard of it, but I had never watched it. But Tom said he'd seen it, and he's like, oh, we should watch that. I remember that being pretty good. And, I'm always down to watch something with Rutger Hauer in it because I love him. Yeah. And I had never seen this one.
Yeah. And he's looking tight in it, too. He looks good in it.
Yeah, this was... When did The Hitcher come out? This was 3 years after The Hitcher. The Hitcher, I think, came out in 1986.
Is that right?
So I think this was 3 years after that.
He's in good shape in it.
Because, like I said, he was in a lot of shit after this, obviously. Because somebody pointed out he was in Hobo with a Shotgun. I think that was his last movie. Which is also a great film, by the way. But... Oh, you would probably like Hobo with it. Yeah. You would probably like Hobo with a Shotgun. But yeah, he's in... I think that was his last movie before he died. But yeah, I kind of feel like this was his last... his last try to get that big action movie status, like Schwarzenegger and Stallone and them had, or even Bruce Willis or something like that. But it's just he always seemed like he never got through to that A-list.
The timing wasn't right,
which is a shame because he's great.
When he appeared, he had to have physically been bigger, kind of roided out to compete with those other guys. Then they would, because that was actually one of the main attractions of that genre, was how big those guys were, how muscular they were, or how big they could make them look too. Stallone isn't very big, but he can look big on screen. I think he's maybe 5'8".
He's good at puffing himself up like a cat.
Yeah. Yeah, Stallone was in great shape though. He was in great shape for Demolition Man. He was in great shape for fucking Rambo 3. He was amazing. I mean, he'd just gotten done doing a whole bunch of training with fucking, I think it was Frank Zane, who's a famous bodybuilder, I think was his trainer. And he looked fucking great in Rambo 3. And Rambo 3 was like a fucking, just a kill fest. It was pure action movie, ridiculous action movie. Just everything blowing up, machine guns everywhere. That was just a wild movie.
Was that the one with all the gore?
No. That was Rambo. The Fight Continues.
That's
that was
right.
really good.
That was just like a straight up bloodbath.
Yeah.
Which is hence why
one of his best ones.
Hence why I like that one.
Yeah, one of his best ones. And Stallone looked terrible in it. His face looked all.
He did, yeah. He looked awful in it.
That fucking.
But the gore was.
Hormone and fucked his face.
The gore was very entertaining.
Yeah, it was a great movie. And then when he came back later, his face was fixed up. Yeah, he started looking good.
Well, yeah, they gotta fix it.
He fixed it, but it didn't matter, man. It didn't matter if his face looked fucked up in that movie. That was a fucking badass fucking movie, and his body looked great though.
I would love to know what the body count of that movie was. I'm sure someone's counted.
It was fun.
There's got to be a website out there with what's the body count of the movie? Somebody counts all of them.
He just kind of took Rambo 3 and put it on fucking steroids.
Yeah, it was just like a non-stop massacre, pretty much, that movie. John Gora said Rutger Hauer was great in Flesh and Blood, which was Paul Verhoeven's first English language film. Had Jennifer Jason Leigh too. Yeah, and she was also in The Hitcher. I don't think I've ever seen that. Now that you're talking about it, am I mistaken? But didn't Anne Rice say that when she wrote The Vampire Lestat, she was picturing Rutger Hauer as Lestat?
I don't know.
And that's all. And that's how. That's why she was kind of mad initially when they announced that Tom Cruise was going to be in the movie, because she had pictured somebody more like Rutger Hauer. Although at that point, Rutger Hauer probably been a little bit too old to play the Vampire Lestat. But I remember reading that that's who she was picturing when she was writing the character.
So from what I remember, Lestat was turned into a vampire when he was 16 or 17. Wasn't that right?
I thought he was 18, but yeah. It's been a long time.
I remember thinking when I was reading those books back a long time ago.
But she wrote those books in the 70s and 80s, so Rutger Hauer was young. But that's who she was picturing,
I remember reading those books back in the day, thinking that, wait a minute, what she's describing is Louis and Lestat would have been teenagers, basically.
Yeah.
So they would have appeared to be teenagers.
Yeah.
To everybody else, but they weren't. They were old. This is kind of a weird concept. And she's writing basically vampire porn, gay vampire porn.
Well, yeah.
You know, involving,
why do you think it
involving
sold?
very young guys.
Why do you think it sold so well?
Yeah, involving very young guys. Yeah. Or at least they looked young. They were fucking... Lestat was already a couple 100 years old by the time that happened.
Tammy said, yeah, because Lestat was over 6 feet. Yeah, he was a big dude.
Yeah. I think she ended up saying that Tom did a good job with it, though.
Yeah, she was mad about it at first. Like, she took out ads and everything. And honestly, like, I couldn't blame her because I was not picturing Tom Cruise in that. Fucking,
I thought Tom did a great job.
He did. He was good in that.
Yeah.
He was good in that. I don't love Tom Cruise, but he was actually good in
Man,
that.
fucking, he nailed it about Lestat being a fucking snotty-ass dick.
And Tom Cruise is real good at playing parts like that.
but likable. A likable dick. He's fucking, man, you're a fucking dick, dude. You know.
And yet still I'm hanging out with you.
Kind of cool, yeah.
Bren Air said, I bet she was picturing Rutger Hauer as he looked in Flesh and Blood, the one we were talking about. He was pretty young in that. That's what I thought, because she wrote that book. Well, I know Interview with the Vampire came out in 1976, right? And then Lestat, when did the Vampire Lestat come out? A couple years after that, or was that 81? I can't remember. But it was 70s and 80s that she was writing that. So when she said that she was picturing Lestat looking like Rutger Hauer, she was talking about him like from then.
Yeah.
From like the early 80s.
Yeah.
So, and he was real young then, so. Like, it was like Blade Runner time.
Yeah.
So, well, though it's Blade Runner was 82, so that might have been.
He was already older.
So he was already a little bit older. I don't know how, like, old he was, but yeah. Samantha B said, Tom Cruise still sends Kirsten Dunst a birthday cake every year.
Yeah.
Sweet or weird? I can't decide.
No, nice.
I guess that's nice.
Yeah, she's a grown woman.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
And
so.
she wasn't young, really. It wasn't as young as she appeared in that movie. I think she was 14, wasn't she? 14 or 15?
Something like that. Yeah, she was like a teenager.
They were trying to pass her off as like 12, but she was, because like, I think in the book she was about that age.
No, in the book she was
like
6.
6, yeah.
In the book she was 6.
6, that's right.
That's why it's like nobody has the balls to like fucking make a 6-year-old. And I don't blame them. I'm not saying I want to see that necessarily. I'm just saying that in the book she was 6 years old,
that's
which
right. It's been a long time since I've read it.
That's the thing. It causes like a lot more problems if you're that little.
Yeah.
Like being made into a vampire, obviously.
Right. Her mom was dead though. They found her in a plague zone, and she had the plague. She was going to die. She was dying. They made her a vampire to keep her from dying, and gave her to Louis as a gift.
But still, I could understand like being a little bit mad about being like eternally 6 years old.
She would have died anyway.
That's true.
She got
but
bonus
I'm just
life.
saying that would still be like.
She lived a long time though. I think she was 50 when I think she was 50 in the story when she died.
Yeah, I
Or when
don't
she was
remember.
killed.
Well, yeah, she got murdered by the other vampires.
The other vampires killed her.
Well,
If you guys have never read the Vampire Chronicles, man, fucking read them. They're real good. Very
At least
immersive.
the first 3 are good.
I'd read all of them.
They're all good, but the
even
first 3 are the
Memnoch
best
the
ones.
Devil and all the shit that branched off. I didn't get into the witch stuff, but
I liked the witch ones, the Mayfair witches. I liked that series. But it's been a while since I have most of them around here someplace. I just haven't read them in such a long time. But I got super into them, like when I read them the first time.
They were good. They were real good.
Yeah,
much better than the movies.
Like you said, they're very immersive.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much more detail. This is true 99.99% of the time. The book is always going to be better because it's not limited in scope. You can write down whatever you want. Paper's cheap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, pixels are cheap if you're just going to read the ebook. So you can make the fucking thing 2,000 pages long and put as much fucking detail in there as you want. When you're making a movie, you're limited.
And all the kind of vampire lore that I like and like the great movies that I think I include fucking Mama Walde. In other words, Blackula Scream, because Anne Rice used those as a template for the Vampire Chronicles, because those movies addressed what would vampire culture be like.
Yeah.
And in the unedited versions of Blackula Scream, they show you what fucking vampire culture is like. No, you can't go out at night and hang out with the mortals wearing badass clothes. No, you can't. You will bring them back here. And he's like, well, wait a minute, hold on. I'm a vampire and I gotta do what you say? Yeah. So I'm a slave. And he goes, yeah. Vampires.
Sorry, man. That's how it goes.
Vampires made slaves out of other vampires. And that's what the Vampire Chronicle's about. It's a hierarchy of vampires. And basically a lot of them were slaves.
Did Rutger Hauer ever play a vampire in a movie?
I don't know.
I thought he might have, but now I can't remember. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Probably not. He's been in a lot of
We're
good
getting
movies,
way
though.
off topic, though.
What else is new?
Yeah.
What else is new?
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you have Amazon Prime and you like 80s action movies with like a little bit of funny shit in it, and you also like Zatoichi movies, and you want to see like an American take on it, and you like Rutger Hauer, then it's a no-brainer. You should definitely check this one out. Like I said, I saw like a lot of reviews for it when I went looking, but I hadn't really heard anybody like talk. It's not like it's some big like cult classic or anything like that, in the sense that everybody knows it, you know?
Yeah.
But it definitely seems like a second or third tier cult classic, because I did find a lot of reviews of it, and a lot of people that reviewed it remembered it very fondly from their childhoods.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like from the 90s, it's like, yeah, we rented this all the time and we loved this fucking movie when we were kids because it was on cable all the time. And I can totally see that, because this movie, like I said, it's not long. It's only like 90 minutes. It's super entertaining.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like pretty action packed. And it's got kind of a nice a little bit of like an emotional heart to it, because you get a thing where there's kind of a running thing where, I guess, when Rutger Hauer's character got blinded by the mortar explosion in Vietnam, which blinded him, which I said that twice. Sorry about that. But it also like fucked up his tear ducts, so he can't cry. So there's like this kind of discussion that he has with the kid, because the kid's crying about his mom dying and being like, oh my god, I'm such a pussy because I'm crying. He doesn't say that, but you know what I mean? That's kind of the gist of it. And he's just like, oh, you know, a real man's never afraid to cry and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's really nice. And then like at the very end, when he gives the kid, he saves the kid, he saves the dad, he kills all the bad guys and shit like that. And then he gives the kid back to the dad, and the kid has kind of gotten very fond of him. He calls him like Uncle Nick, you know what I mean? But he's got to go on, because he's like Zatoichi or Kung Fu or something like that. He's got to like go on to the next adventure. Yeah. Like, he can't just hang around. So him and the kid like leave, and the kid's like crying like, don't go, Uncle Nick, and all this other stuff. And then like he cries at the end. Now they did set it up, because when we watched the ending, you were like, well, they could make the sequel, because they did kind of, I don't know if they like set it up, but they left it open. Yeah. And they actually were, when they made this, they were actually thinking of making a sequel.
I could tell.
But
most things had sequels back
then.
But
they just never got around to it, because it didn't do well enough.
Well, right.
But yeah, they could have made like a whole like series out of this, where he was going from place to place.
The problem with the movie, I think, the reason why it didn't go over big, is I saw it. I liked it. But I wasn't too curious about what was going to happen next. And I didn't quite really understand what I was seeing 100% of the time. After seeing Zatoichi movies, now I saw this one, I was like, oh, of course. I liked it a lot better after seeing some Zatoichi movies, because now I knew what they were homaging.
It gives you some context.
Right. I knew what they were homaging, and knowing, and it allows you to know why they're shooting certain scenes. Like, he's walking away, the kid's crying, and he's said, fuck it, I got to leave this kid behind, so he'll bond with his dad. That's like some shit Zatoichi would do. And those scenes would be shown at the end of a Zatoichi movie. And then Zatoichi would be fucked up about how he could be living a life with these people, but he can't. He's a wandering loner. Like Kane from fucking... Yeah. Like
this is the
Kung
path
Fu.
I have chosen.
Yeah. Gotta go. Gotta go. If not, we can't make another movie with new characters.
With a different story.
I did my shit. I gotta go. Okay, another story.
Brenner says, I watched Blind Fury as an adult, and I like it a lot. Rutger Hauer can be a good guy, but I much prefer him as the bad guy.
See a Zatoichi movie. If you like this, go see some Zatoichi
movies. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, he's great as a good guy, and he's great in this. But yeah, he probably does make a better villain. He's when he's a villain, he's like really intimidating, because he's kind of charming at the same time, which makes him even more intimidating. So yeah, but like I said, I think that might have been a reason too why he didn't get to like the top tier action stars, because he was willing to play villainous roles like he did in The Hitcher. And you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was right about that. That's why he didn't want to play a villain, because he just wanted that heroic action star kind of larger than life character.
Play a villain too much, it ruins your brand.
Yeah, and he did realize that. But the thing about it is that the villains are always more interesting, like always.
They're always more interesting, but they get killed.
Yeah.
And then the audience starts seeing you getting killed all the time.
Yeah.
So you're not indestructible. Although Tom Cruise decided to be a villain in fucking Collateral.
See, and he makes a great villain.
Yeah.
Because like I said, he seems like he's kind of a jerk. So it's like, so
Cruise
he's just channeling.
Villain. Cruise is actually a better villain than he is.
He is, yeah. Well, because when he tries to be a hero, it's just like too much. It's just kind of like he's like too perfect or like too good at everything. But like when he's a villain and he just like allows himself to just like go full on asshole,
he's a lot more likable.
He's so much better. Yeah, and like which is weird.
He's
you wouldn't think that, but he is more likable when he's a villain.
He was a very likable. Lestat's a villain.
Because
but
you're
he's cool.
Because you're not you get the sense that you're seeing the real him.
Yeah.
That he's not like trying to put on a face for you.
Yeah.
When he's playing a good guy, I get the sense that it's like fake.
When he was playing that hitman at a Collateral, you buy it. He was fucking nuts. He liked killing people, and it just like he was real good at it. Real good shot. And Tom is good with guns. He's real good with guns. He's got real training. And some of the shit they show him doing in the movies is a little far-fetched now. Nobody's really that fast and that...
Yeah, but it's a movie.
It's a movie. Nobody's really that fast and that accurate with pistols.
People want to see cool shit in movies. They don't care if it's realistic or not.
You do have some guys like that. They're competition shooters, but they're doing that under the conditions of a competition, not combat. Nobody's firing back at him. That's it's like not quite the same.
I saw her little butt turn up behind you.
Now, Keanu Reeves is also good with guns. I've seen him at the range. Videos of him at the range. He's very good. Baby. Very good at close range. But just because he's good, don't think that shit that you see in his movies is plausible or feasible. Like that close range, hand-to-hand martial arts with pistols doesn't work out. Everybody gets shot. Everybody.
Well,
because
like I said,
they're not instant. There isn't instant incapacitation usually. You can take a couple rounds and then fire back, and you know what I mean. After you've been shot a few times, so both guys get shot.
Well, like I said, nobody wants to necessarily see realistic shit in movies.
Yeah.
People want to see cool shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's okay if it's not realistic. People know it's a movie.
Yeah.
People know
those movies he's making is cool. They're real good. And
right.
We need to watch that one next. I think it's streaming.
Which one?
That last fucking Keanu Reeves movie.
The John Wick one?
John Wick. Was it John Wick 4?
4. Yeah, I still want to see that. Because I really liked all the other three.
I think you can stream it now.
Well, you should be able to. They got it for sale at the Dollar General right by the register.
4?
Yeah.
It's Blu-ray or DVD?
Yeah, they got the Blu-ray.
I'm going to get that.
Yeah, they just had, I don't remember how much it was, but they had it right by the register the last time I was there getting some coffee.
I'm going to get that tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just go over there and get it on your motorcycle.
Is it like $10?
I don't know how much.
I ain't paying 20 for it.
Well, yeah, I don't know how much it is. I don't know how much it is. Well, I mean, it's been out for a while, so I imagine like it can't. It's not that much to stream. One new movie that's come out, like a horror movie that I want to see, is called Cobweb, and a lot of people have been talking about that. And I think you can rent that for $6.99, but I might wait till it comes down a little bit.
Expendables 4. I saw the trailer today on fucking YouTube. It looks great, and I like 3.
That's gonna be out in the theater soon, I think.
Yeah, it will.
Because I keep seeing the poster for it in the theater.
And see the theatrical cut of 3 wasn't very good. Now you can put that on fucking fucking Mr. No Cussing. What's his name? Fucking the Octagon. Fucking
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris. Yeah, Chuck Norris kind of ruined 3.
But Chuck Norris kind of ruined everything.
He wouldn't allow any cussing in it. So
although I will
had to cut a bunch of cool shit out.
One thing, like, we were thinking about when we were scrolling through movies last night, because we were going on Amazon Prime and Tubi and everything like that, and I was like, they did have Silent Rage on there, and I said, now I will concede, I've seen, not like under duress, all of the Chuck Norris movies. Yeah. My ex-husband was like the world's biggest Chuck Norris fan, and for whatever reason. And
I don't really get the Chuck Norris thing.
I don't get it either.
Yeah.
But so like I ended up watching all of the Chuck Norris movies. Yes, even the dog one. Yes, even the one where they go to hell or whatever. So yes, so I've seen them all. But I will concede that Silent Rage is actually a good-ish Chuck Norris. It's good for a Chuck Norris movie.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like a horror movie.
Well, he fucked up 3 because he made him not cuss. He can't be in a movie that has cussing in it. Ain't that some childish shit? But
I wouldn't even be able to talk if I couldn't cuss.
What
the fuck is that about?
Listen, if I'm in a fucking bar and somebody fucking says I can't cuss, I'd punch that bitch. All right? Which I've had that happen to me before in bars in Mississippi. I'm talking to somebody else and says, "Don't be cussing around my wife." I should have fucking decked that motherfucker, but I wasn't as big.
What century is this again?
It was the fuck around of times. It was the find out of times. That's what century it is. I fucked that dude up today.
I like that. I'm gonna have to remember that.
I will knock you the fuck out in front of your wife, and she will never look at you the same ever again. After you lay in
I mean, of all the things, like, look, I'm an advocate. Like, if somebody is really fucking around and they're being a real annoying ass,
I wouldn't even talk to him. I was talking to somebody else.
Well, that's what I mean.
You said, don't.
If somebody's really fucking around and being an annoying ass or something like that, yeah, like, absolutely stop doing what you're doing. Like, that's legit. But if somebody's talking to somebody, they're not even talking to you, and they're not yelling or anything like that, and they're just swearing because people swear.
Yeah.
And like, don't you come over to me and tell me I can't.
I was in my 20s. He was in his early 40s. You know what I mean? So he thought he could pull rank, and it was Mississippi. And it was another time. If that happened today, I'd just beat the shit out of him in front of his wife, and then probably leave with his wife if I was single. Yeah, because they never look at you the same way.
Then like put a cigarette out.
Yeah, put a cigarette on that bitch and walk out with his fucking flat-chested wife.
And then call him a motherfucker on the man.
Motherfucker. And then,
Don't tell me how to talk.
But the thing is, I was going to say about, I got to come back, I got to defend Expendables 3. Because the uncut version on the Blu-ray is far superior. It's good. Real good. One of the best ones. And that Chuck Norris had him cut all the good shit out of it. I'm going to have a word.
Why does anybody listen to Chuck Norris about anything?
He wouldn't be in a movie unless it was up to his status.
So then he doesn't have to be in a movie. Don't let him be in a movie.
For some reason, Stallone,
nobody needs Chuck Norris in the movie.
Thought he had to have him in there just for name. You know, he wanted him in there.
Sly.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Nobody needs Chuck Norris.
And they were asking. They've been asking fucking Steven Seagal to come on, but he won't come on. He's afraid they're going to make fun of him, I guess.
Well, duh.
Yeah.
Obviously. They're like, yeah, that's why we're putting you in the movie, so we can make fun of you.
No, no, they don't have to do it that way. You could put him in.
They don't have to
in a villain role.
But that's how it's going to turn out.
Or you could put him in a role that is appropriate, that people will understand. It would be good.
Well, they could make him like Jabba the Hutt or something.
No. No.
Tom's getting exasperated.
No, I'm getting mad because
I know it's so easy to like exasperate you.
Yeah, the thing about fucking Seagal, all right. He had a couple good movies, all right.
Yes, we know.
He had a couple good ones. Fucking Under Siege 1 and 2.
Good-ish.
Yeah.
Movies.
Fucking Hard to Kill. I thought was pretty good.
I mean, for that genre, they were okay. They were okay.
The amazing thing about Seagal is that he's got some diehard fans. So you can't fuck off. You can't piss off his fans. You have to have him in a role that kind of homages his late career. That's how I would do it. You know what I mean? Where he dresses up like a ninja vampire samurai with the painted on hair and fucking that, hanging around with a 17-year-old Japanese girl who loves him. It's got to be some shit like that. In a pool of Asian experience. Asian experience energy drink and shit. Mm-hmm. I want somebody. If y'all love me, y'all would send me a fucking Steven Seagal action figure. I'll put that bitch right here. I want a Steven Seagal.
How cool would it be if we had like a life size, like a larger than life size, like the one that I have of Mirror Universe Spock?
Steven Seagal action figure of all fucking things.
But the thing about it is, if we had a larger than life Steven Seagal cardboard cutout and we put it in front of Spock, it would cover Spock completely up because it would be super wide.
Yeah.
So.
Have fucking Seagal on this bitch.
Steven Seagal still hasn't come to our house and has like threatened to beat us up yet, so I guess we're okay.
All the shit I talk about Steven Seagal, I got a strange kind of fucking fascination for Steven Seagal.
I think a lot of people have a strange.
Yeah.
I also have a strange fascination with him, just because I'm always like mystified by people that are that arrogant and also that clueless about their own shortcomings.
I don't really want to put it in that way, man. I just look at Steven Seagal on some of the early talk shows that he went on, when they'd ask him fucking invasive questions of, did you ever live in Japan? And he's like trying to say yes, but he can't. Or there's all kinds of.
He doesn't want to outright lie, but he's trying to like.
Yeah. There's all kinds
make
of,
it end run around it.
Right, and he did know that one martial art, but I'm not sure if that's an effective martial art. I think it's Aikido, I think is what it's called. I don't think it's very effective. It's very old school, from another time. I think it was mostly about defending yourself against a sword, really. I think is what it was based on.
Which, that might be useful information.
Yeah, but that's nothing compared to MMA.
Well, no.
So he could do that. But he wanted to claim that he could do a whole lot more than that. Like advise the CIA on shit and fucking help people.
See, that's what's fascinating.
He was doing that kind of shit.
It's fascinating to me. Like, okay, I get people that are complete losers and have never done anything in their life, and they make up lies just to make themselves seem better. Yeah. But it's like, if you're actually kind of accomplished, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not a fucking superhero or anything like that, but he was, like, in some very well-regarded movies. He could actually kind of do martial arts. He had, like... He could do shit. Yeah. But then he just felt the need to just gild the lily. Yeah. And I don't... And in a way that made it really easy to, like, demonstrate that he was making it up. Yeah. And I don't really understand, like, the motivation behind it.
I think what happened was he heard Frank Dux lie a lot.
And he's like, I could do that.
I think he believed Frank Dux. I think he believed Frank
A lot of people believed Frank Dux.
And so he felt like...
Sorry, Dukes. Okay. I'm saying Dux.
I'm going to say Dux. Yeah.
Put an umlaut on it if you want us to pronounce it.
Yeah. Dukes. I'm going to say Frank Dux. I think he heard Frank Dux tell all them lies, and he thought they were true, and that he had to compete with that.
Maybe that's what it was.
Frank Dux
he felt like inadequate.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you run into that sometimes. You run into these people that just like say just like outrageous things is not true. You know it's not true. Yeah. And it's just and it's very easy to check that it's not, you know what I mean? It's like, and call them out on it. But it's like, they'll never admit that they're just like making it up. And I don't understand that. Like, that's just fascinating to me, that personality type.
Mr. Demigod goes, this is great. Damn, I don't know what's great. We don't know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, I think that was probably about, we were talking about the swearing.
Yeah.
Tammy says, oh, by the way, Kristen Dunst was only 11 when she was in Interview with the Vampire. Okay. But like I said, so yeah, about right. But like I said, she was 6 in the book. Yeah. Brenner said, I think playing a villain is way harder than playing the good guy anyway. I agree. I think it is too. Yeah. Well, the villains are usually a lot more... layered and a lot more complex. Yeah. The whole movie's focus is on the villain. The good guy's job is to react. All the work is on the villain. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah,
she was 11 working on there, but she was just working with everybody else, and I guess they knew her. So Tom fucking sent her gifts and shit. He's Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom. I'll tell you what, man. When she showed up to do fucking Spider-Man, when she played what was her name? What was Spider-Man's girlfriend's name?
Mary Ellen? Mary Ann?
Mary Ann? No, I forgot.
Mary Sue? Shit.
She was cute as shit.
It just totally like went out of my mind.
She was cute as hell in Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. I knew it was Mary something. Yeah, just like the shoe. Yeah. You'd think of all people I would know that. Because that's my favorite shoe.
She was great as Mary Jane.
John Gore said, I liked Cruise in Tropic Thunder. Yeah, he was great in that. That's another... You need to see that
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
You need to see that movie.
Everybody says it's great.
You would fucking love that movie. Yeah. You would love that movie.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's usually hard for me to predict what movies you would like, but Tropic Thunder, that's right up your fucking alley. I think you would like that a lot. Brenner said, Rutger Hauer in Nighthawks is just a masterclass in playing a villain. He did it so well, it intimidated Stallone, and Stallone had the film re-edited to make Stallone look better on screen. See, now we really have to rewatch it. Because Stallone was so insecure that he's like, the bad guy is just like too bad, and he looks like he's scaring me, so I have to fix it. Yeah, Brent Air said that's the Norris film where he's basically fighting a slasher villain. Yeah, Silent Rage. That's why that's the only way. Okay, the Octagon is good too. But I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember that one being alright. But Silent Rage is kind of like, I don't want to say it's like Silence of the Lambs, because it's not as good as Silence of the Lambs, obviously. But it's kind of along the same lines, where it's like a. Is it supernatural? Isn't he supernatural, kind of?
Who?
The villain in Silent Rage. I thought he had some kind of. I don't know if it was like a superpower or it was some kind of like. Was he psychic or?
I don't remember
something. But he was like a serial killer.
Yeah, I don't remember the movie at all.
Yeah, but I tend to like when the action movies like cross over a little bit, because didn't fucking what was that one that shit, what's his fucking name? Now I can't remember. Death Wish. Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
Charles Bronson did one called, what the fuck was the name of it? Was it 10 to Midnight? But I thought he did one too that was kind of more like, it wasn't a horror movie, but it was more like a thriller type of thing, and that I remember liking that one a lot. But
his best one was, what was it called? The Mechanic? The Professional?
The Mechanic, yeah.
I think it was called The Mechanic, wasn't it? Charles Bronson?
Yeah. Did we review that one?
I think so. It's where he played, Jan Michael Vincent was in it?
Yeah.
He played an assassin.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we reviewed that.
Yeah, and they kind of left the subplot vague, but he's gay, and he's got a thing.
Yeah, that's right.
He brings on Jan Michael Vincent as an apprentice, and
that's right,
and like a boyfriend, and they were like serial killers, killing these dudes for the mafia and shit.
That's right.
It was a great movie.
I remember really liking that.
Yeah, and Bronson said he liked the character. He wanted to think, but he didn't want to play a gay character. He thought that might hurt his brand, so he asked him to kind of leave that vague. So they kind of. But I mean, if you watch it nowadays, it's pretty clear. But they tried to like kind of keep it on the down low. But yeah, if you watch it nowadays, it's like pretty obvious. It's obvious to today's audience.
Yeah.
But
back then maybe not so much.
It wasn't quite as obvious of what was going on.
But he's definitely coded that way.
He was just this psychopathic serial killer who was acting as a damn assassin. And he was gay, and he brought in a young pretty boy as an apprentice and turned him into a damn ruthless killing machine. And then they ended up turning on each other.
That's the name.
Then they turned on each other in the end over some shit.
What year did that come out? 70s, right?
Yeah, it was good. It was like something out of it's one of those damn serial killer cases we'd hear. What's his name? Old fucking Carl. No, what was his name? When it was torturing the little boys on the board.
Oh yeah.
What was that guy's name?
Dean Coral.
Dean Coral, yeah.
The Candy Man.
Kind of like a more mafia version of Dean Coral. That's some fun. That motherfucker was horrible. That dude.
Yeah, we did a show about that motherfucker.
I'd fuck that dude up, man, if I got hold of his ass. Him and his glass rods.
Yeah. Shit, I was just like listening to one of those scary story channels on the way home, and he was getting into like all Leonard Lake and Charles Ng again.
Yeah.
And I was like, I forgot what those fucking sadistic ass motherfuckers they were.
They needed to die slowly.
We did a show about them too.
Yeah.
I was like, those were like, they were some of like the worst of the worst.
Conventional white man's justice couldn't bring justice to those two. They'd have to pull out a motherfucker like me to bring justice to that, outside of society. I'd get their asses.
And the sad thing about it is that no matter what you did to them, like, they wouldn't learn.
No, it'd be nothing compared to what they did to those women.
Yeah, that too.
But I'd sleep more soundly at night. That's so I'd be doing it kind of for selfish reasons.
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because it's not gonna do anything for them. Like it's not gonna teach them anything.
No, just make me feel better about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I'm perfectly willing to admit that.
Yeah.
It's like I know it's not gonna like help them. Like they're not gonna be like, oh my god, and they're gonna see the error of their ways because people like that just don't.
There's a certain zen in. There's a sin in allowing things to remain fucked up, but there's another kind of a zen to write something,
Yeah.
And and you're writing it in an unconventional way. I'm not a big believer in the conventional system and fantasy.
John Gora said Sly should have put Mr. T in the Expendables. People would have loved that.
Yeah.
I think I would have rather seen him in there than Chuck Norris.
Mr. T probably doesn't look like he used to, though.
Well, nobody looks like they used to. People get old.
Pretty fucking big.
Film at 11.
Yeah, but you're on the right shit. You can stay big till you die.
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying that it's like everybody gets older.
I'm not sure if Mr. T was on the sauce. I don't think he was. I'd have to go back and look at him. No, he probably was.
I haven't seen him in a while.
He
so
probably was. Like, I'd have to go back and look at his physique.
Well, I kind of feel like everybody who doesn't love Mr. T. Chuck Norris is a little bit more of a divisive figure. I feel
he was great in that one Rocky film when he was in the beginning of it. Remember that? Goes,
yeah.
Is that your woman? You know, he's talking about Adrian. Remember that? Like, I forgot what he said.
I mean, who doesn't love Mr. T? Come on. Like, he had his own breakfast cereal back in the 80s. Do you guys remember that?
Mr. T, yeah.
The Mr. T cereal. They made the commercials and shit.
Yeah, he had about fucking 7 inches of gold chains going around.
That was his thing, man.
Yeah.
It worked.
That shit must have weighed. If they were real, they must have weighed a lot. They must have been about 30 pounds of fucking gold.
Either that or they were plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would have done.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Gore said Rodriguez put Steven Seagal in one of his Machete films. The second one, I think. Oh, really? I've seen the first Machete, but I don't think I ever saw the second one. Now we gotta watch that. I'm gonna see Steven Seagal waddling around in there. Was he waddling? I don't even remember when that movie came out, so I don't know how heavy he was at that time. But I don't know. We'll see. All right. Jeff Hart said Norris believes his own press. Yeah. And again, that's a personality type that I have a hard time. I find it fascinating, but I have a hard time like relating to, like people that just get so swallowed by their own myth, I guess. And also, like, he takes himself too seriously, which is again an issue that I have with Steven Seagal. Also, it's like you can't get to a point where you just like take yourself so seriously that like no one can have a laugh at your expense, or you just like are so self-important that you think you're like above the fucking rabble and everything like that. It's just like I don't really understand that. And but the thing about it though is that's what makes it easier to like poke fun at them, because they just are just so self-important that it becomes hilarious.
He didn't have any much about him to be that way anyway. That was the part.
Well, they never do.
He was just lying on top.
Like someone that's actually awesome wouldn't actually have to do that.
Well, he could do some shit, but he had to add on to it. And
that's what I'm saying.
What got to him.
That's what I'm saying.
And then he decided to become a cop on TV, where he's fucking doing police style shit. I don't remember exactly what he was serving. He had a whole fucking.
I think that entire series is on Tubi.
Yeah, I have to go see that. I've seen a few of the episodes. He is a cop in that.
It'd be super cringe.
Well,
he's an honorary cop, but they let him do cop shit.
They let him do cop shit. It's fucking ridiculous. And
I would not let Steven Seagal do cop shit.
And he's whatever race of person he's talking to. If you're white, he's white. If you're black, he becomes black. If you're Asian, he becomes Japanese. If he starts talking about Japan, he becomes Japanese. He's a trip, man.
He's a chameleon.
If he starts talking about soul food, he becomes black. He's from Michigan, and he's Jewish. He has nothing to do with that shit. Come on. Although he can play guitar. He can play guitar pretty good. Why didn't he just stick with that?
Well, see, that's what I mean. It's like, look, he can actually do shit. Some people can't do anything.
Right.
He can do a few things relatively well.
Yeah.
Just take that, roll with it. You know, you don't have to be humble about it. You can be like, yeah, I can do this kind of shit, but don't exaggerate. You're not like God's gift.
He was doing that cop shit here in the South. I think that was in.
I thought it was Arizona, but
it was in Southwest. Okay, but
I could be wrong. I thought it was Arizona or Texas.
I also saw him running around Louisiana though too. He did something in Louisiana for a while. I just noticed that when he was in the South, he tried to be as southern as possible. Dude's from Michigan.
Yeah.
No.
We used to use Steven Seagal.
You're a Yankee, dude.
I mean, and like I said, there's nothing right. Just be what you are. Like, don't pretend to be something you're not. Especially nowadays, because people can check up on that.
Check on your shit, yeah.
And no one's gonna trust you or believe you in anything if you just keep making. Just be what you're like, man. It's all right.
It's too late for him. He ran off to Russia.
Well, I mean, And the thing about it is,
even the Asian experience got old.
And now he's just like, now he's just like a punchline. So like you said, it's probably too late to like redeem himself at this point, because now whatever he comes out and says, he could legitimately find the cure for cancer.
Yeah.
Like he's not gonna do that, obviously.
Yeah,
but he will come out and say that, and everybody's like, fuck off, you did not.
And it's my understanding he's got like several dozen kids, and like. I think like several dozen.
Well, that does not surprise me.
He's got like several dozen kids, and like it's mostly from like Eastern European and Russian moms. That's the understanding.
Well, that's what happens. He goes up and gives him a free breast exam.
Yeah,
one thing leads to another.
He's a shiatsu master.
And then
he's gonna find some lumps in your lumps. This is a big lump. This is like a double G lump. Let me check the other one. Oh,
let me push them both together. Honk, honk, honk.
Are you lactating? Oh, I swear. Okay. I feel a hard lump in this one. Let me check the other one again. Yeah.
He's like, if you let me drink your milk, that's supposed to cure cancer. I found that out in my laboratory.
If I can get a taste, I can tell whether or not whether that cyst in
I would bet real American money that he actually did say that to at least one person.
I can tell about your breast
it would
health.
not shock me at all.
Your breast health. Yeah.
Yeah, he approached a woman that was pregnant or had just given birth and legit straight up asked her to drink her breast milk.
That's right. So he could give her
an assessment.
An assessment of her mammary health.
Of her health, yeah. That would not shock me in the slightest.
You've been smoking?
Like I said, I would bet money.
Yeah.
That he had said that to at least one person.
Yeah, he'd do that.
That's totally on brand.
Yeah.
Totally on brand.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna do that.
He's like, "Oh, that's a good idea."
That's a good idea.
Tom's gonna drink some breast milk somewhere.
Yeah. I got him on the lookout now. I'm gonna carry a fucking wine goblet with me. Titties etched in it. Laser etched in the front.
What titties laser etched in the front?
Yeah, I'm gonna carry some little strips of paper so I can do tests and shit in there. So go, okay, yeah, your pH balance is good. And let's say that.
Dude.
I'll just come up. I'll have a whole thing. I'll have it in a fucking medicine bag.
Hey, that would actually. That's a great idea for a video.
Breast doctor, yeah.
Well, we could even we could do a fake one because I could put on like a fake pregnant belly and all that other kind of stuff, and
we'll hook it up so you squirt.
Yeah. And it's like, and then you could like come up and I'll pretend I don't know you and shit like that, and then like you could just come up and be like Steven Seagal and like say,
I'll dress up as Steven Seagal. Paint my hair on.
That would be even funnier.
Paint my hair off.
Yeah, just paint it on there.
Yeah.
Put it on there with a marker, like just kind of half-assed.
Big though. I think he's 6'2".
That's okay.
Yeah. Be like, what happened to you? Fucking you shrank.
Well, yeah, it's like, I got put in the dryer when I was still wet. But yeah, so that would actually be like a really funny video. I don't know if I could keep a straight face the whole time, but that would be pretty hilarious. And that there'd be freaks out there that would watch that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, lactation, that's a whole subgenre.
Yeah.
So.
We could hire some talent that does that. And make it real.
Yeah, you could do a real one, too.
We do it real, yeah. We'll figure out something. We'll play doctor with her.
Yeah, we need
I'll be dressed up as a doctor, you're dressed up as a nurse.
We need to write down all these ideas. We have good ideas for this shit all the time.
Yeah.
Like we never write them down, then we forget.
Yeah.
But that is actually a good idea.
We'll dress up like some out of Clockwork Orange. Remember how they went to the fucking the Soloco milk bar?
Moloko, yeah.
And they were drinking the fucking breast milk out of the mannequin dispensers.
Yeah,
something like that.
With the little lever between the legs, and it's like, and then the milk was coming out of the tit.
It's fucking funny.
All right, so
Drenchrome and fucking what was it? Moloko Plus.
Yeah, well, it was milk with like synthetic drugs.
Yeah.
In them. That's what it was. But yeah, watch A Clockwork Orange if you haven't seen it. By the way, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Book's good too, but the book's a little harder to get through because it's all slang. But you can get through it if you try.
Book's better.
It is, but
they're both good.
Yeah, they're similar, but I mean it's a pretty faithful adaptation except for the end.
Yeah.
But honestly, I like Kubrick's ending better, or at least like the choice that he didn't adapt the last chapter, where Alex like quote unquote redeems himself or like grows out of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I kind of liked the way they ended it, the movie. All right, so I guess we're gonna wrap it up because we've been on for like an hour and a half, and it's been such a long day. You guys, it normally takes me like almost an hour to get home from work. Today it took me 2 hours.
Yeah.
There was a fucking accident on, you know where it was? It was on, I know you don't usually go this way, but there's a drawbridge. It's old. They're building a new overpass, but the overpass isn't done yet, like right next to it. So there's a drawbridge right on the border between Volusia County, where I work, and Lake County, where we live. So it's a 2-lane drawbridge. Some hick in a pickup truck hit another hick in a pickup truck on the drawbridge. So it's 2 lanes, so there's no way around. Like, you can't get around. There's just water. So everybody was stopped this way, and everybody was stopped that way, and then, like, they had the cops out there while they were cleaning all the shit up. They didn't look like they got hurt, but the cars were all fucked up when I passed them. But so I was sitting there. I don't even remember how long I was sitting there. Most of the time, it was just, you were just sitting. I just put the car in park and fucking sat there. Like, I left the air on and shit, but... So, yeah, it took me 2 fucking hours to get home. I didn't get home till 6:30. Man, I was so fucking mad. But, and while I was sitting there, I was thinking, well, I guess I made the right decision, like, quitting my fucking job so I don't have to do this every fucking day. You know? Because that's actually not the first time that's happened, like a wreck on that road. So it's just like a 2-lane kind of rural road. So if somebody wipes out on that road, they have to close it, and there's not really any way around, so you just have to sit there and wait. So, yeah. That really sucked a lot. So I was a little cranky when I got home. A little cranky. But yeah.
I had a sandwich waiting on you.
You did, yeah. That sandwich was really good, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
I was just glad that it was like a cold sandwich and it wasn't like just sitting there like getting like hot food getting cold. Like, 'cause I'm sitting there going, God, I'm so hungry. And I'm like sitting there in the car. And it's like, and I had to pee, and it's like I was thirsty because I drank all my water, and I was just kind of like, oh my God. I was so upset. But, yeah, hopefully, I only have to work at that place for 4 more days, so hopefully nothing bad happens. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But, yeah. So, I think, okay. So, the next show is going to be Wednesday night. Wednesday night is the main show. And the topic that won, I've been wanting to do this one for a while, so finally it won in the polls. We are going to be talking about the mystery of the man in the iron mask. So that should be fun. I just read an article that just came out like fairly recently where they think they figured out who it was. But like obviously they're not entirely sure because it was a long time ago. But they found some like new papers or something like that where they think that they've established his identity. But we'll talk about that on Wednesday night show. So that should be fun, like kind of a historical mystery type of show. So yeah, thanks everybody for dropping by this evening and hanging out with us, talking about this underrated Rutger Hauer movie, which, like I said, if you have Amazon Prime, you should go watch it because it's a lot of fun. So yeah, come by on Wednesday night. We're going to talk about the Man in the Iron Mask. Hopefully you guys can join us for that, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday night. Good night.